For nearly 40 years, a mystery lay buried in the Canadian high Arctic. Fossil bones that defied everything scientists thought they knew about where rhinoceroses could survive. This wasn't supposed to exist. Rhinoceroses don't live in the Arctic, they never have. But on October 28, 2025, scientists proved otherwise. Meet Epiaceratherium itjilik, a rhinoceros that lived 23 million years ago in what is now the Canadian Arctic. And its discovery rewrites everything we thought we knew about mammal evolution and ancient land bridges. Published October 28, 2025, in Nature Ecology and Evolution, this discovery reveals that the Arctic was a highway for ancient mammals crossing between continents, 20 million years longer than anyone believed possible. Devon Island sits 600 miles north of the Arctic Circle, a frozen wasteland where summer temperatures barely reach freezing and winter brings months of total darkness. Today, this is one of Earth's most inhospitable environments. The largest uninhabited island on the planet, nothing larger than an Arctic fox survives here year-round. But 23 million years ago, during the early Miocene, this frozen desert was a temperate forest. Pine, larch, alder, spruce, and birch trees stretched across landscapes that looked more like southern Ontario than the modern Arctic. And in those ancient forests lived an ecosystem that would seem impossible today. Otters, rabbits, swans, shrews, and something that shouldn't have been there at all. A rhinoceros, living at 75 degrees north latitude, closer to the North Pole than any rhinoceros had ever been found. In the mid-1980s, paleontologist Mary Dawson from the Carnegie Museum of Natural History was exploring the Houghton crater on Devon Island, a 14-mile-wide scar left by an asteroid impact 23 million years ago. Dawson was examining sediments at the crater's edge when she found something extraordinary: fossil teeth with distinctive banding patterns that could only belong to one type of animal. She knew instantly these were rhinoceros teeth, but the location made no sense. When Dawson showed the specimens to rhinoceros experts, they were baffled. Donald Prothero, a paleontologist at Cal Poly Pomona who examined the bones, admitted, "I said, well, this is a very strange animal, good luck." But Mary Dawson was undeterred. Throughout the late 2000s, she returned to Devon Island again and again, methodically excavating more of the skeleton from the permafrost. By the end of her fieldwork, Dawson's team had recovered approximately 75 to 80% of the skeleton, an extraordinary level of completeness for any fossil, let alone one from the high Arctic. But for nearly 4 decades, the mystery remained. What was this rhinoceros? Where did it come from? And how did it survive in the Arctic? Mary Dawson died in 2020, never seeing her discovery fully understood. But her legacy would soon rewrite the story of mammalian evolution. Epiaceratherium itjilik was nothing like the massive rhinoceroses of today. Standing just 3 feet tall at the shoulders, it was roughly the size of a small pony, similar to a modern Indian rhinoceros, but significantly smaller. Most remarkably, it had no horn. Where modern rhinos sport their iconic nasal weapons, itjilik's skull was smooth and streamlined. Its feet told an even stranger story. Instead of the 3 toes typical of modern rhinoceroses, itjilik had 4 toes on each foot, a more primitive condition that suggested ancient evolutionary relationships. The skull revealed specialized feeding adaptations. Itjilik had a narrow nose and mouth, perfect for browsing the leaves of trees and shrubs rather than grazing grass like many modern species. Based on tooth wear patterns, researchers determined this individual was a female in early to middle adulthood, an animal that had survived multiple Arctic winters in a landscape unlike anywhere rhinoceroses live today. How did a tropical adapted lineage survive months of Arctic darkness? The answer might lie in adaptations we can't see in the fossil record. The animal may have possessed a dense fur coat, seasonal fat storage, or behavioral adaptations like seasonal migration, strategies that left no trace in bone and teeth. What makes this discovery extraordinary is the exceptional preservation. The fossil bones remain 3-dimensional, with minimal mineral replacement, allowing unprecedented insight into ancient Arctic anatomy. To solve the mystery of itjilik's evolutionary relationships, researchers undertook the most comprehensive rhinoceros phylogenetic analysis ever attempted, comparing anatomical features across more than 50 extinct and living species. The team analyzed museum specimens from around the world and integrated biogeographic data from the paleobiology database, tracking where and when every known rhinoceros species lived across millions of years. The results were shocking. Itjilik was not closely related to any North American rhinoceros species, not the massive teleoceras of Nebraska, not the Floridaceras of Florida. Instead, the Arctic rhinoceros belonged to a European lineage. Its closest relatives lived in Europe, the Middle East, and southwestern Asia, thousands of miles away across the Atlantic Ocean. Remarkably, in July 2025, just months before this Arctic discovery was published, another research team announced they'd successfully extracted ancient proteins from rhinoceros tooth enamel, opening revolutionary new methods for studying extinct mammal relationships. The combined evidence revealed that itjilik's lineage diverged from its European relatives sometime between 34 and 40 million years ago, during the late Eocene epoch. This raised a profound question. How did a European lineage of rhinoceros end up in the Canadian Arctic 23 million years ago? The Bering Land Bridge, connecting Asia to North America, was the known highway for mammalian migration. But itjilik's European ancestry pointed to something different, a direct transatlantic crossing. The biogeographic analysis revealed multiple rhinoceros dispersals between Europe and North America during the Oligocene, evidence of a migration corridor that supposedly closed tens of millions of years earlier. The discovery of itjilik provides evidence that the North Atlantic route between Europe and North America remained viable for mammalian dispersal far longer than scientists believed. Traditional models suggested this corridor became impassable during the early Eocene, approximately 50 million years ago, a full 30 million years before itjilik lived. How did mammals cross? Fraser and her colleagues outlined several possibilities. Perhaps stepping stone islands persisted across the fragmenting land bridge. Perhaps intermittent land connections formed during sea level changes. Perhaps seasonal ice created temporary passages during colder periods. The ice crossing hypothesis remains controversial. Philip Sexton, a paleoceanographer at Open University, calls the idea pure fantasy, arguing it conflicts with geological models. Other researchers point to the Greenland Corridor, a fragmenting but potentially crossable route via island chains. Regardless of the exact mechanism, the pattern is undeniable. Biogeographic analysis reveals multiple mammal dispersals between Europe and North America during the Oligocene, nearly as many dispersal events as occurred within Eurasia itself. This suggests the Arctic served as an active corridor for mammalian evolution for at least 20 million years longer than previously considered, stretching from the Eocene into the Miocene. The early Miocene provided a unique climate window, warm enough to support temperate forests and browsing mammals, yet increasingly seasonal as Earth's climate shifted toward modern Ice Age cycles. Itjilik forces us to rethink the North Atlantic's role in mammal evolution. Rather than a briefly open Eocene gateway that slammed shut forever, it was a persistent, if difficult, crossing zone that shaped mammalian biogeography for tens of millions of years. The Arctic rhinoceros discovery transforms our understanding of the Arctic's role in mammalian evolution. Rather than a peripheral wasteland, the region was a crucial center of biological innovation. Recent Arctic discoveries include Pliocene camels, early horses, ancient bears, and shrews, all found at latitudes where they shouldn't have been able to survive. Lead researcher Danielle Fraser explains, "We often think about the tropics as centers for biodiversity, and they are. But the more fossil discoveries we make in the Arctic, the more it's becoming clear that it was an essential region in the evolution of mammals." The Arctic served as an evolutionary testing ground where mammals developed adaptations for extreme seasonal variation, cold tolerance, and resource scarcity. Understanding how ancient mammals survived Arctic climate extremes provides insights into how modern species might adapt to rapid climate change. These discoveries underscore the importance of protecting Arctic fossil sites, irreplaceable archives of evolutionary innovation that are increasingly threatened by climate change. The exceptional preservation at Devon Island suggests other large mammals, perhaps elephants, horses, or carnivores, may still be waiting to be discovered in Arctic permafrost. Mary Dawson spent decades returning to one of Earth's most remote places, driven by scientific curiosity and the conviction that even the most unlikely discoveries could reshape our understanding of life's history. The name itjilik, meaning frosty in Inuktitut, honors both the Arctic environment where the rhinoceros lived and the indigenous peoples whose traditional knowledge guides modern Arctic research. The Arctic continues to yield extraordinary discoveries that challenge our assumptions about ancient life. Each fossil represents a piece of an evolutionary puzzle we're only beginning to understand. As climate change accelerates Arctic thaw, these frozen archives of ancient life become more accessible, but also more vulnerable. Time is running out to document the evolutionary secrets locked in permafrost. Epiaceratherium itjilik reminds us that life finds ways to survive in the most unlikely places, and that the Arctic has always been more than a frozen wasteland. It was a highway for evolution itself. The next time you see a rhinoceros, remember, their ancestors once called the Arctic home.